Hello, Mr. Ed here. Today is the 4th of July. Pow, 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 pow. Yeah, no firecrackers except for these guys right here. As you can tell, we're going to do the removal of the comb that's beneath this hive. And you remember in the video a couple of weeks back that where we showed this external hive where the bees had moved down below the hive itself, the box itself, and started building the comb underneath it. And at that time, the hive itself was getting robbed out. Well, 3 days prior to that, the hive was getting robbed out. And the bees decided to make a stand below it. And that's where they are today. Here it is. It's probably been 2 weeks, maybe a little more than 2 weeks since then. And the number of bees on the comb down here is substantially less. I mean, dramatically less. And my suspicion is that our queen may have been killed. However, just judging from that, it does look like, and I don't know, I haven't even looked inside of our box yet, it does look like the bees may have started to come back inside of this box that I left up here. But all that stuff, I don't know. You're gonna see this as I see it for the first time. But regardless of that, we are definitely going to remove all this comb, replace our screen bottom board, and get these bees inside of a box once again, because there's no way I can allow this situation to persist. It's just not it's just not right for my bee yard. And it's they're very susceptible to robbing. It's just they're easier to defend inside of a box like this. There's so many hives around here. So our boxes, I've had these boxes off since that first initial robbing out. And in fact, let me show you. They've been sitting here just like this out in the open. I mean, and it's been 2 weeks, and you know, any kind of comb, brood comb that's not being worked on by bees, the moths are in it. Within 2 weeks, they're in it. 2 weeks, these guys have been sitting out here. Here's a frame of brood and not a wax moth in it. And that's because the daylight goes through the frames and the moths can't stand the daylight. So it's just a really good way. I mean, this is real proof. In 2 weeks, this thing would have been covered with the moths. But 2 weeks, nothing on it. So the idea of exposing our hives, standing them on edge to allow daylight to pass through it, and then the bees can finish cleaning out the box. And this box now, I'll freeze it one more time. I'll freeze these frames one more time to make sure there's nothing alive in there. But after that, I'll set them outside and these guys are good to go. Getting back to this guy right here, I don't know, the condition if the bees moved up inside of it, but we're gonna get this comb moved out. I may vacuum them. I still haven't made up my mind how I'm gonna do all this. I'm just gonna see how it goes as I do it, and we'll make the adjustments. But I can see bees on the entrance right here, so I think they are in a box. So by the grace of God, I'm hoping in about an hour, because the rain is coming. And so that's why Charlie came out here real early. It's about 7 o'clock in the morning right now. Get this job done before all that rain sets in on us. How about let's wrangle up a new box of bees? We're all set up, I guess. I'm using a brand new bottom board because I don't want any comb from over there to be on that one. So we can't use this green bottom board. I got to use another one. So we got this set up. And what I'm going to do, first thing I'm going to do after I lift up my top, I'm going to move the box right here onto this. And we're going to find out whether we have bees in there or not. And if we do, I'm going to go through frame by frame and I'm going to see if we have our queen up there. So let's go ahead and start doing that right now. And I'm going to try not to use any smoke on this. So we get a lot of these black carpenter ants in here. And so they're they're really a nuisance. The ants they love to move into hives that, especially these black ones, move into hives that have low volume of bees in it where they can't patrol the area. So that's why these guys like to move in, unprotected. So the bees have not moved into the box. There's a few of them on there, but basically there's no bees inside of this box. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this box, and we're going to set it on top of this box right here for right now. Now I'm going to get Charlie to move the camera and come in and show the comb on this board right here. The bees have not only built comb from the top of this board to the top of this 6x6, but they've also penetrated through the space in between it, and I'm not able just to lift this whole thing up. I'd love to be able to lift this whole thing up and set it into the box. And I saw I saw Joey Riles. He's got a YouTube channel. Joey Riles got a YouTube channel. He's a really good friend of mine, and he had the same issue with bees drawing comb underneath his box, and that's the way he handled that situation. He simply lifted up the screen board and set it on an empty deep box, and then allowed the bees just to migrate down on their own. I don't have that luxury of being able to do that because the way the bees have built the comb on here. I'm going to actually have to separate the comb from the screen bottom board and then get the bees into the box. And what I think I'm going to do, I'll use my Everything Bee Vac, and I'm going to vacuum the bees off of the comb, simply to make the operation less, I don't know, dramatic for the bees and for me. And then after we vacuum up, then I'll just dump them into the box when we get them moved. So let's go ahead and start removing some comb and vacuuming up some bees. So what I'm going to do, since I'm going to be having to stay on the ground, I'm going to take this piece of cardboard and I'm going to slide it underneath all that comb. Any bees that are falling off, particularly if the queen falls down, I don't want her to get into that grass where I can't see her. So if she's on a hard surface, it'll be really easy to see her. So I'm going to start first by taking this sheet of cardboard and sliding it underneath all that comb.
Yeah, you got them mad. They're mad.
I'm going to get the bee vac right now, and I'm going to start vacuuming these bees off the base of that comb. And as I'm doing that, I'll be looking for our queen, even though I know she's not going to be on the face. If she's still in there, she'll be on the inside. the robbing is going on right now. So I'm pretty much finished with all of this stuff right here. We pulled a piece of cardboard out to see if our queen had fallen on the cardboard. It wasn't there. And I mean, I've looked really well in here. She wasn't here. But with all the mass of bees right here, we're gonna work on this. We're gonna vacuum the bees off of this. Hopefully our queen is on this piece of comb in here. And then after we get the bees off of this, we're gonna take this along with all their other stuff, and we're gonna go back into the honey hut because this robbing is just, it's out of hand. So we're gonna go ahead and look for our queen in this mass right here. Here she comes up. She's coming out right now. Get ready. No. There she is. Thank you, Jesus. Woo! Good deal. All right, let's go ahead and finish backing these things up, move these bees into the honey house and get this thing cleaned up. This is finished. There's so many robber bees here, they're finished. We got our queen, and the robber bees are gonna start moving up here now that I'm vacuuming the bees off. So we're gonna grab all our stuff, load it up in the buggy, head back to the honey house, finish vacuuming off inside, and frame up this honey. So we're gonna pick it up inside of the honey house. And what I'm doing is I'm allowing that spot over there to be completely robbed out. It shouldn't take long. I mean, an hour, hour and a half, and everything over there that was over there, the honey that is, it's gonna be gone. And the reason I want to do that is I want to clear that site of the robber bees, because what I'm going to do is these bees, they're going to be sitting exactly on that same spot. And the reason I need to set those bees right on the same spot is that all the field bees, everybody's oriented to that spot. So yeah, we'll change out our bottom board and then add another super on top of that. Very little brood in it. There is some new brood in it, and I think that's a bounce back from 2 weeks ago when the hive was being robbed out. She kind of went to shock, but now she's laying again. I'm gonna add some more frames of honey in there, as well as give them everything that we took out of there. And you know, these girls ought to be okay. So let's go ahead and frame up some comb and we'll show you how we do that. Now, what's really, really important in framing up comb when you do a cutout is getting the orientation of the comb in place. You have to know what was facing up and what was facing down. And the reason you need to know up and down is because the cells, inside the cells are not flat, they're angled like this. And that angle is so that honey doesn't roll out of there, and probably has got something to do with the brood developing it properly, whatever. But they're angled. And so you need to, when you put that piece of comb back in a frame, you need to put it in the proper orientation of up being up and down being down. So we were pretty lucky on this one. Everything was, it's obvious what was up and what was down. But a lot of times when you do cutouts, and you have to cut sections off, you don't know what's up and what's down. So what my trick I use, I have one set side of the ice chest that I put the comb in, and I always put up to one side of it, and that way when we come back here and frame it up, we know which side was up, even though it may not look like that, but we know it. This is the top of it right here, this is the bottom of it right here, and these are the two ends. So when we frame this comb up, it's going to be framed up just like this in the frame. And more than likely we'll probably get 2 or 3 of these pieces of comb in one frame to get it framed up. And there you go. I only needed 4 rubber bands on this one. There's no stores in this at all, but what I'm trying to achieve is to get brood on there, because the bees, they're always more likely to stay when their brood is on there. So that's our first frame of comb, and we'll frame up as much brood as I can, and then we're going to frame up as much honey as we have in there. We've got all our other comb framed up. Now we're working on the part of the comb that was underneath the screen board to begin with. So what I'm trying to do at this moment is to give myself a little room that I can work in where I won't make a real mess of this wax and then start all that honey to drain, because I really don't want it to drain. I want to be able to keep this stuff as dry as possible, because by keeping it as dry as possible, and when we put this hive back out on the stand, that will definitely minimize any robbing that would go on. So by keeping it dry, we're going to minimize that robbing part. So I've got a good spot right here. It's all broken away. So I can now come underneath it, and I've got enough room in here. I just take my Hive tool and I'm laying it on the screen itself, and I'm just sliding it underneath that comb, almost like filleting a fish. And then look at that, look how dry that is. So that's what I'm trying to keep all this stuff like that. Now the comb has been cut off, and you can see where the comb was. And what I'm going to do is I could either take the screen off and rescreen it, or just get my blowtorch and just melt all this wax out of it and pop it, and it'll just all clean this stuff up. So, I mean, I'd rather not take the screen off and just use a torch, and we'll get it cleaned up that way and get it all back to normal again. But we're not going to be using this board for these bees. We're going to put a different board on there. As you can tell, the robbing is over. Good thing. And the whole place is back to normal pretty much. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to remove all this comb that was left behind, and now it's completely dry. And I don't want to leave any of this stuff around here, so which is why I'm trying to collect it. And I really do want to do a good job. I want to clean up as much of this stuff off as possible and not leave any of it behind, which is why I'm catching it below me. But there's no honey in here. That's for sure. All that's robbed out. All right, got all our comb out of there. Now we're going to set our board exactly where it was before. And the reason we're going to do that, because all those field bees that are in that bee vac, they know this spot. Now the hive bees, they don't, but we're going to be dumping that vacuum onto our box right here with the comb on it. And we're going to then, once we do that, we'll drop our queen onto them, close it up, and release the queen as well. All right. Next thing to do, I'm going to grab the queen. I'm not going to release her yet. I'm not going to release her until I've dumped the bees out here. Then I'll set her on there. And once everything calms down after a minute or two, then I'll release her and she'll get in the box. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the lid. There's an interior lid on this that got screen on it so that it can let the heat dissipate from it, from the bees. And generally when you pull this off, there's going to be a big cluster of bees. So I'll take that big cluster and I'll bounce them into the frame and then dump the bees right on top of them. So you got the bees on there and the bees right here. That's good enough for that, because the other bees, I'll let them come out. And we're going to put our queen right here. I want them to know she's here. The bees are spreading out. That's really good. I'm gonna go ahead and turn her loose now. I want to see her go into that frame. There she's coming out. There she is right here. Boom, she just went down. Perfect, perfect. We can close it up now. Put our lid on it. And these bees, I'll come back in about a half an hour. The back will be completely empty. I just want to bounce that in there because there's debris in the bottom of it. I didn't want that following into our box. The bees will walk out, get out here, and start coming up into the box. You know, that's really the first time I ever did a removal on one of our bee boxes here at the Abbey. Now I've done removal in one of the dormitories before, but this is the first time I've ever done one on one of our bee boxes. Pretty interesting stuff, and I'll check back with these bees probably on Monday when I come back and make sure everything is okay. But the way that Charlie and I did this, the process should work really well. So that's all I got for you in this one. Thanks for watching.
Keep on watching.
And me and Charlie, we'll see you on the next video. God bless. Mr. Ed, we're out until the next one.